Hello, everyone. Welcome to my first ever YouTube video. I'm so excited to begin this journey of recording videos for you guys to give you all the recommendations of books I love, books I maybe liked but still would recommend, and just talk about all things bookish. And in today's video, we are going to talk about my favorite books that I read in 2024. In no particular order, let's get into it. I read The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. I read this book hoping it would get me to get up at 5 a.m. And when I started it, I realized that it has a whole story in here. It's not just a self-help, you should do this and you should do this. It's actually a story that teaches you a lot of lessons. And while I did get up at 5 a.m. for a while after reading this, I fell off of that. But I am working towards getting up at 5 a.m. again, and I still carry these lessons with me that I've learned from this book. Another book I read was Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. This book is considered an interconnected standalone, which means you could read this on its own, but you could also read it in a series, and technically this would be considered the third book in the Part of Your World series. This book follows Emma, who believes she is cursed that after every guy she dates, when they break up, he finds the love of his life. And without any spoilers, this is just what's on the back already. And there's a man named Justin who posts a Reddit thread who believes he has that issue. And they start talking online and they eventually decide to meet. And a lot of things happen in between. But this book was so cute, romantic, but also real and relatable and a little bit emotional. And based on the experiences that Emma has gone through in her life with her mom, really affects the relationship she has with others around her. And there is character development in this book, which I love, and a happy ending. So, highly recommend. I also read Funny Story by Emily Henry. This book is actually really funny when you think about it. This book follows Daphne, who's engaged to her fiance, when her fiance realizes that he's in love with his best friend. So breaks off the engagement and decides to be with his best friend. Well, Daphne then has nowhere else to go besides to live with her fiance's girlfriend's ex-boyfriend. Crazy concept, I know. But this book was so funny and actually my favorite one of Emily Henry so far. I've read all of her books and this one is my favorite. The Funny Story was a great book to read after I read The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This book is an historical fiction about World War II and follows two sisters who will do anything they can to help the ones that they love. And I loved the writing so much. Yes, it was emotional. Yes, it's pretty heavy topics in here, but the message is so important and I loved it so much. Now, the next book I read was Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Now, this is considered a fantasy, adult fantasy book. And while I have not read, this would be my first ever adult fantasy that I read. I did read fantasy as a young adult, but this is a perfect intro for an adult who has not ever read fantasy before. It read so well. The writing was understandable, and the character building and the world building was written so well for an introductory to fantasy readers. This book follows our main character, Violet Swarnagale, who has been trained and raised to join the scribe quadrant. And basically what they do is take care of historical texts and take care of all their literature until her mom decides that she needs to be in the writer's quadrant. So Violet has 6 months to train and prepare to enter this war college. Basically, the writer's quadrant is like trained warriors. So she has 6 months to prepare to be in the writer's quadrant and become a dragon rider. but she is frail and fragile and tiny. And I won't say any more because I don't want to spoil it. But I also read Iron Flame last year, the second book in the series. This will be a five book series. And Iron Flame was just as good. And the story just kept going. And this book was so romantic, funny. I love this series so much. I cannot wait to continue reading. The third book just came out this month, Onyx Storm, and I will give you my thoughts and updates when I finish that one. Now for my top book of the year, which was, drumroll please, A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. I can't even know what to say. It's just so good. My top book of the year, people. Top book of 2024. This is the second book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. And without saying too much, because I can go into the whole series like in another video, but I read all 5 books in less than a month. They are that good. Yes, this is fantasy, adult fantasy, but it's not too complicated and too hard to get into and read, in my opinion, because the characters, you just can't help but fall in love with them. And this book had just everything I wanted in a book. Romance, spicy scenes. Chapter 54. If you know, you know. Okay? So good. Read that alone. Read that. Don't read it in public places. But it was so good. And also had a lot of character development. Just amazing. I recommend the series. And I will be reading her other series, which is Throne of Glass and Crescent City, at some point. I don't know when yet because Throne of Glass is just an overwhelming amount of books, but I heard it's so worth it. So that will be at some point in my life. I will read those books. So those are all my favorite books that I read in 2024. I have plenty of ideas for videos, but I love your recommendations on what you want to see, what you want to hear me talk about. And I'm just so excited to be building this community with you guys to talk about our love for books and to give each other recommendations. And I love you guys. I'll see you in the next video.